Russia. Vast, boundless, incomparable. A unique country whose history goes back thousands of years, native land to 180 different peoples and nationalities. Here, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism and traditional beliefs peacefully intertwine in a synthesis without equal. The mysterious Slavic soul, the fiery highland temperament of mountain dwellers, the extraordinary way of life preserved by minority ethnic groups. From the Arctic wastes of Franz Josef Land to the subtropics of Krasnodar region, from the Baltics to the Sea of Japan, an endless diversity of forest and steppe, infinite plains and snowy peaks, winding rivers and lake clusters, remote landscapes where no man has set foot. You can make 100 journeys across Russia.
Moscow is situated in western Russia, close to the country's border with the Ukraine, Belarus and Estonia. Lying on the Moskva River, it is the country's capital and its largest and richest city. Moscow holds a special place in the world's imagination. Opulent, spectacular and grandiose, Moscow has been at the epicenter of some of the history's most pivotal moments.
Russia. Large, endless and amazing. Its territory and culture are so diverse that you can travel in Russia as often as possible, and every time you'll discover this country anew. The Russians themselves refer to their country as Russia the Soul.
Viewers, we are lucky to have a Russian ambassador in our program that we call The World, and he's going to shed more light onto the relationship of our country. So, very welcome. Ambassador, can you tell us about yourself, your background, before telling us about your country?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for inviting me to your program. Well, my name is Alexander Makarenko. I'm 67 years old. I've been in Kenya for more than 5 years now. Before coming to Nairobi, I was the Director of African Affairs at the head office of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Moscow. Before that, I worked for many years, actually for 45 years, in the diplomatic service, and I worked in many other countries, all of them African countries. I started in 71, and the first posting was in Nigeria. After which I worked in Ghana, Zimbabwe, where I opened our embassy in 81 after Zimbabwe attained independence. Then I worked in Guinea during a very difficult time for my country. You may know that in 1991 the Soviet Union disintegrated to several independent states, and I was chargé d'affaires, that is the acting head of mission of the Soviet Union in Guinea, in Conakry at that time. It was very difficult, very challenging times, but very interesting professionally. Then I was ambassador to Madagascar in the 90s. After that I was appointed Director of African Affairs, where I stayed for a few years, and then I came to Nairobi in 2011. But actually I used to visit your country earlier. First time was in 93. I came here to have consultations with my colleagues at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I've been coming to Nairobi more or less regularly. And in the years 2000 I used to do it more often for a specific reason also, because my son used to work in Nairobi. He worked for our embassy. He's also in the diplomatic service. He stayed here from 2005 to 2008. and actually he got married in Nairobi. It was here at this embassy. He married a young girl who worked for the embassy as well. They are now both in Moscow. I have two children. My son is 33, my daughter is 43. She is a doctor, by profession a physician. She is working in Moscow now. My wife, Yelena, who is with me here in Nairobi, also has some relations with Africa. She used to work for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the past, and her first position was in Mauritania. So the whole country is a little bit, if I can use the word, Africanized. Well, 45 years is a very long time. It's all my professional life has been spent here in Africa, or working on African issues, or being connected with some problems between the countries of the continent and other countries. So I'm here, I continue. I like the continent very much. I have a collection of masks, you can see some of them here, which is quite important. I would say it is the largest and the best in Russia. It started as a hobby, then it became a passion. Now it's practically an obsession. But you know how collectors are.
You can tell us how Russia is today.
I think it's 17 million square kilometers. That is much more than such large countries in the United States and China put together. Climatic conditions are very different. In the north it is polar circle. It is very cold. There is permafrost, and the winters. In the winters, the temperatures go down as to minus 60. In the south, there are deserts, semi-deserts where it can go very hot. But the major portion of the territory lies in the area of continental climate, and it is hot in summer and quite cold in winter. Moscow is like that. In Moscow, summers are hotter than in Nairobi.
Now, you have talked about your country, and you know about our country. What is that we can take as an advantage as Kenyans? What do you have in Russia that Kenyans can take as an advantage and economically grow from that?
Well, the relations between our two countries date back to the 30s of the last century. You may know that your first president, Mzee Joe Kenyatta, studied in the Soviet Union in the 30s. He studied at the university where they taught political science, trade unionism, economics, etc. And we hope that the education he got there was useful in his struggle for the independence of your country. Russia, or the Soviet Union, was the second country to recognize independence of Kenya. The first country was German Democratic Republic. They used to call it East Germany, because there were two German states at that time. We've had a very cordial and fruitful relationship through all the history, which is now more than 50 years. Politically, well, there are no reasons for us to quarrel. There are no crises, no problems which are dividing us. We look at the world from similar perspective. If we talk about the international issues, be it world security or international economic or trade problems. Bilaterally, relations have been developing quite well. economically, I would say trade is the most important element. For us, Kenya is trade partner number 2 in Africa. The first one is South Africa, naturally because it is a much larger economy, but Kenya is number 2. Last year, the volume of trade was about $400 million. And what is important, trade is balanced. Our imports from Kenya are twice as large as the imports from Kenya by China and Japan put together, for example. Volume of our trade is roughly similar to the volume you trade with Germany, and it is twice as high the volume of trade with France. So for Kenya, Russia is quite an important trade partner. And for us, as I say, Kenya is partner number 2 in Africa. Trade is going on well, but there are problems. One of them is that a very substantial part of our trade goes through intermediaries. Well, for example, Kenyan flowers, which are sold in Russia, they are bought mainly through Amsterdam. And sometimes they're called Dutch roses, not Kenyan roses. So we must try and establish more direct links so as not to lose time and money. And we are very much interested in seeing Kenyan export to Russia diversified. Because we buy tea, we buy coffee, flowers, vegetables, but there are some other things which could be interesting. Kenya is now world exporter number 1 as far as tea is concerned. And Russia is the world number 1 importer of tea. We drink more tea per capita than any other nation in the world. So by nature we should love each other, which we do. Kenyan tea is a very high quality, and we've been importing much of it. Now Kenya is I think second source of tea for Russia after Sri Lanka. But we would like to have to buy more coffee, which is also very good quality. There is not enough coffee, Kenyan coffee on the market. Unfortunately, there's been a reduction in the volume of coffee grown here. We hope it will be overcome and we will be able to buy more. Of course, tourism is very important in our relations. Kenya is a major tourist destination in the world due to the wonderful climate, the natural parks, animals, sea coast, everything. And Russian tourists view Kenya as one of the preferred destinations on the continent, apart from South Africa and others. And well, everybody knows that you've been experiencing some problems in the tourist industry due to insecurity and the activities of terrorists who come from outside. And but we also know that the government has been taking very important effective measures to fight this menace, and the measures have been bringing the results. The situation is much more stable than it used to be a few years ago.
Okay, Russia is known for manufacturing a drink that is called vodka on a lighter note. What makes it that popular? What is the history behind vodka?
You know, a couple of years ago, I was invited by the Tea Board of Kenya to be guest speaker at the annual dinner. And I started my remarks by saying that foreigners usually say that Russia's national drink is vodka. This is not true. Our national drink is tea.
Okay.
Vodka is one of the alcoholic drinks which are sweet and very fragrant. Yeah, but it is not as widespread as vodka now. But vodka is just one of the drinks there. It is maybe a tourist industry which made it look popular.
Okay, Kenyan population is largely very young people. These are the people we would want to know what is there that they can have as an opportunity in Russia, apart from what you mentioned, education? Is there anything else other than education that our youth can benefit from Russia?
Well, Russia is the country with the largest percentage of refugees and migrant workers in the world. There are about 14 million foreigners who permanently stay in Russia for various reasons. And many of them come to work for such reasons as the lack of jobs in their country, or for the attractiveness of the professional opportunities which exist in Russia. Well, yes, Russia is a highly industrialized country with a very high level of technological development, science, and culture, and there are opportunities for everybody, for foreigners as well. But of course, to come to Russia and to live there and to work, it's very important to know what exactly you want to do, and to be sure that there is this opportunity which you are interested in. You must know whether you can find a place, a particular company or government department, and one other thing is, of course, the knowledge of the Russian language. Well, the foreign students who study at the Russian universities study Russian, and they speak quite well the language. Majority of them naturally go back to their own country after they graduate. But sometimes there are cases, I know, that they stay for different reasons. Some marry and they have families and they prefer to stay and work there. Some go to their country, then they return. Some, well, I don't know. Kenya is a very political country. Your people are always talking about politics. Russia is not as political as that, but we may have several Africans who are in our politics. I know a mayor who is from Guinea-Bissau. He's lived in Russia for 20 years. He is an important member of a political party. There are some Africans who are millionaires. At least I know a couple, no, 3 Ethiopians who established a retail network of shops. Other is an owner of several Ethiopian restaurants, some other people. You can do it if you're interested, if that is your objective, because the opportunities are there. But as I said, of course, you must have relevant information. You must try and find it, and there must be some things which are important, as the knowledge of the Russian language, of course. You must be qualified, and you must be prepared to the differences in climate, of course, in culture, yes, because it is not easy for everybody to go to a foreign country and to start a different type of life, different kind of life. It might be interesting, especially for young people, but, well, young people are interested in everything. But when you are more or less mature, when you have a profession, a family, some background, it is not easy to change your country, to start a different life in a different world. Well, but it is done, yes. So there are very many sportsmen, athletes from Africa who are in Russia, be it in football or other types of sports as well.
Yes, Russia has the longest railway line in the world, from, I think, Moscow to Budapest.
Mm-hmm.
Can you be able to shed any light on why the economic, how it affects the economy? It's something we learned in our geography, and it was so important.
Well, as I said, the territory is very large. Distances are very great. There are, I think, 10 different types of territory according to the time periods, whatever it is called. When it is noon in Moscow, it is already 8 o'clock in the evening in Vladivostok. So the railway transport is very important, and historically Russians started building railways in their country very early as I think the start of the 19th century, and the territory has a very dense network of railways which are very useful. It is the most economical way of transportation. You mentioned the Trans-Siberian railway. I think it takes about 7 or 8 days to travel from Moscow to Vladivostok. And this line is important not only economically but for tourists as well, because there are special tours when you are you can see a lot of the country and see how it changes. So it is like that. Russia is a tourist country. Well, last year there were about 40 million tourists, foreign tourists, who visited Russia. It is not the leader. The leader is France. I think they had about twice that number, about 80 or 85. But still, Russia is important. We have much to offer to foreigners as tourists. Well, apart from Moscow, which is not only political but also a cultural and historical center. Then there is St. Petersburg, which used to be our capital for 200 years, which is a very beautiful city. Well, there are old cities and towns which were built 1,000 years ago. Well, there is this Trans-Siberian airline. You can travel along the Volga River and to see half of the country in about 2 weeks' time. Well, anything you can find there.
Okay. Ambassador Alexander, of course, every job that you do has its challenges. What is that you can say is a challenge or challenges to the job of being an ambassador?
Well, it is not easy to become one first. You must have very good professional training, you must know languages, you must know history, you must be more or less proficient in economics. But I think the most important thing for a person who wants to become an ambassador is to know his own country very well, who understands his own country, who knows what the interests of his country are, so he can serve them best. Because being an ambassador in a foreign country, you represent your country, you protect your interest, and you have to work with the host country in such a way so that the interests of both countries are brought closer. You must establish a dialogue. You must find what in that particular country exists which is or could be of interest to your country. How you can do it, how you can communicate with the host country representatives. This is not very easy. It is very good when you are by nature a person able or capable of communicating with others. Not everybody is good at this time, but it is very, very important for us. It is complex and difficult because any foreign country, though you've been living here for a number of years, remains a foreign country. It is different from you. You should always remember that. You should not try and see the people of the country as if they were people from your country. They are different. This is a fact of life, and this should be respected and taken into account. People tend to forget many things, but diplomats should always be aware of it. They should be aware that there are always two sides, and that their job is to find the middle ground, to find the possibilities for dialogue, for something which brings us together, some common interests which could be used to push forward to facilitate bilateral ties. That is not easy, of course. But the profession is very rewarding. Very. When you can see that there are some fruit of your work, well, it is very helpful. Sometimes, in our country at least, profession of diplomat is compared to that of a gardener. Gardeners plant flowers which can blossom in 2 weeks' time, but they also plant trees which bring fruit a few years later. Sometimes an ambassador is gone, but the trees he planted start giving fruit when his successor is there. Well, you must have patience. Of course, it is not easy to live away from your country. There are problems for children, schools, everything. This is difficult. But as I said, the profession is very rewarding. And it is good when your children not only understand the situation, but come to like what you are doing and follow in your step, as my son, which is, to me, is very important.
Yes, in your country, in this country, we are celebrating Christmas. I do understand that in Russia, your calendar is slightly different. This will come a bit later. Is that correct?
Well, the official calendar in Russia is the same as in Kenya. We celebrate New Year on the 1st of January, but the Russian Orthodox Church has its own calendar, which is 2 weeks behind the official calendar. And so Russian Orthodox Christians celebrate Christmas on the 7th of January. It's been historically like that in many countries. You know that Orthodox Christians celebrate Christmas like that in not only in Russia, but Belarus, Ukraine, Moldavia, Bulgaria, Romania, several other countries. It is due to the church calendar, which is still in force there.
Lastly, as an ambassador, has served quite a bit of time. What would you like to be remembered for? How did you done those stuff that you like?
Well, as I said, I'm 67, and this post will be my last post professionally. I will have to retire sooner or later, rather sooner than later, and perhaps when I'm free again, when I am a private person, I will be interested in writing my memoirs. I don't know. Maybe I'll have time to do something about my collection of African art. But now that you asked that question, I think I'm still very young. Maybe not physically, but emotionally. And somehow the thought of something that people will remember me for is still a bit foreign to me. I'll have to think of it. I never thought of it before. I would like to continue, not only professionally but privately. I have a lot of plans, and all my life I've tried to be very diligent, doing what I'm supposed to do well. I know that if there is something worth doing, it is worth doing well. And I've been trying to do it all my life. Whether I've been always successful, it's for others to see. Of course it is not like that. We are all human, we have our weaknesses and our problems. But you should be honest with yourself, with other people, of course. And you should be honest in your profession, which is, after all, the most important thing in any man's life. Profession is the line of things he does, not for himself, but for others. And if he has some qualities which are good in this profession, well, he should employ them as well as he can do. Well, I've been trying to do it. I don't know whether what others will think of it, but it's for them to say.
Well, I think that's the end of our interview. Mr. Alexander Makarenko, I would like to thank you very much for availing yourself to Elimu TV, and we hope that maybe another chance you'll still be able to shed more light on what Russia and Kenya relationship is all about. I'm truly grateful for you availing yourself.
Thank you, Principal. Thank you, Elimu TV. As to the relations between our countries, I'm sure that we shall continue going along this way, which has been beneficial for both countries and quite successful. The grounds for this belief is that there is tremendous goodwill, both in Russia and in Kenya, on the part of the government, the people, my colleagues, Kenyan diplomats, who are very highly professional, very open, very constructive, which is, I think, the most important thing for diplomats. Well, diplomatic profession, as some people say, is the most ancient profession in the world. You will recall that when God created a man, well, a few days later he created a woman to make life easier, more interesting for the man, and more difficult.
Our viewer, that has been World Program from Elimu TV. Welcome next time when we have the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this.
Yes.
It was very pleasant.
Yes.